Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Streaming Charts with Dan. And before we get to all the numbers, I just wanted to take a minute and wish a happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. It's Mother's Day here in the US, so happy Mother's Day to my mom and to all of the moms and stepmoms, grandmas, aunts, or people that just step up and fill that role in somebody's life. You are worthy of being celebrated today, and I hope that everybody out there is either having a great Mother's Day or helping somebody have a great Mother's Day. It's been a few weeks, a couple months actually, since we've done a Streaming Charts episode. I like to sort of let the numbers aggregate, let the data compile, but I wanted to do it this week because we got our first look from Nielsen at the numbers for Fallout, which we knew was a big show on Amazon from various other reporting and from Amazon's own reporting. But now that we have those Nielsen numbers, we can start looking at it comparatively with other shows and other streaming services and start to get a look at the bigger picture. So before we jump into all the charts, let's take a moment very quickly and look at the debut week for Fallout. The reason we're just now getting it is because Nielsen takes about a month to compile their numbers. I know it seems like forever, but that's just their process. So let's look first of all at Fallout's numbers. When you compare it to streaming series debuts here in the US by number of hours watched, and you can see that Fallout is second only to Fool Me Once, which was an early January hit on Netflix. Fool Me Once logged 50.6 million streaming hours in the US in its debut week, according to Nielsen, but Fallout is right behind at 48.4 million, so the second best streaming debut here in the US this year. Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix was in third place at 42.6 million hours watched, and then a big drop down to Griselda on Netflix at 26.5 million hours watched, and then Three Body Problem on Netflix at 22.8 million. And as you can see, this means that Amazon was putting up Netflix numbers, which it very rarely, almost never does. Of course, one of the big reasons why Amazon was able to put up these numbers is because Fallout was released all at once, unlike a lot of their other shows, which are weekly shows. But still, the fact that it debuted bigger than some shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, which also released all its episodes at once, is a pretty big success for Amazon. Looking at 2024 weekly performances as far as hours watched per episode. So it's when you take the total watch time, you divide it by the number of available episodes. Fool Me Once is at number one, 6.33 million hours watched per episode. That's for the week of January 1st through the 7th. The week of January 15th through the 21st, American Nightmare on Netflix had 6.21 million hours watched per episode. And then hanging right in there in third place is Fallout. 6.05 million hours watched per episode the week of April 8th through April 14th. Then we have Testament, the story of Moses on Netflix at 5.56 million hours watched per episode on the week of March 25th through the 31st, and Avatar: The Last Airbender with 5.33 million hours watched per episode the week of February 19th through the 25th. So again, Fallout putting up Netflix numbers. This is where the record was shattered. This is all-time weekly performances for an Amazon show by total hours watched. So this goes back as far as Nielsen's reporting of viewership data on Amazon, and Fallout had the best weekly performance for any show that's ever been measured on Amazon here in the US, according to Nielsen, at 48.4 million hours. In second place was Reacher, the week of January 31st, 2022 to February 6th, 2022. That coincided with season 1 launching. That week, Reacher logged 30.7 million hours. So Fallout had about 18 million hours. That is a huge lead as far as that goes. In third place, we have Jack Ryan. I believe that was the third season. Back in December of 2022, from the 19th to the 25th, it put up 30.5 million hours watched. Then we have the second season launch of Reacher, 28.1 million hours watched, from December 11th, 2023 to December 17th, 2023. And then that same season of Jack Ryan, 27.7 million hours watched from December 26th, 2022 to January 1st, 2023. So Reacher and Jack Ryan, the only other two shows as far as weekly performances on this chart, but Fallout at number one easily. Again, just another sign that Fallout wasn't just a hit show by Amazon standards, it was a hit show by streaming standards. And finally, speaking of Amazon standards, these are the top 10 most viewed Amazon Prime programs. Again, this is since reporting started, coming from Nielsen back in 2020. Reacher's at number one, 259.8 million hours watched, followed by The Boys, 192.9 million, and it'll start racking up some more hours this summer. Then Jack Ryan at 167.8 million hours watched. Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power at number 4 at 134.7 million hours watched. The Wheel of Time in fifth place at 120 128.9 million hours. Then The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel at 118.6 million hours. The Terminal List at 75 million hours. And then after just 1 week, and not even a full week, the show wasn't available for the entire week that was measured, Fallout is already the 8th highest viewed Amazon Prime program here in the US of all time at 48.4 million hours watched. We'll see how it holds up in week 2. It could start moving up this list very quickly. The Summer I Turned Pretty is in 9th place at 44.5 million hours watched, and then Mr. and Mrs. Smith is in 10th place at 40.9 million hours watched. And this is after just 1 week of Fallout being available. So this is a massive win for Amazon. It answers the question of why they picked the show up so quickly for a season 2, because, you know, when we talk about streaming, it's all about, well, by this standard, by that standard, by any standards, this was a big success for Amazon and Amazon Prime. I will be looking very closely and tracking very closely the viewership numbers in the next few weeks, as they are delayed by about a month. So we'll see how people held on. Was it a big rush at the beginning? Did it hold well in weeks 2 and 3? Was word of mouth spreading? But there's a lot of upward mobility available for Fallout. Already, though, a massive hit for Amazon, with hopefully much more to come. All right, let's jump into the charts themselves. We have a lot of numbers to go through, a couple months, and we will start with Netflix. Netflix has always released the most amount of data, which is why I love covering them here on the show. This data, remember, is worldwide. It's not just US-based like the Nielsen numbers that we get. So these are worldwide numbers. And we're going to go back almost 2 months exactly to the week of March 11th through March 17th. That's when Damsel ruled the charts. It had come out, I think, the week before, but it was number 1 with a bullet at 93.2 million hours watched and 50.85 million views in 1 week. We'll see where it lands as far as overall streaming movies, but a great result for Damsel and for Netflix. The Gentleman Season 1 racked up 20 million views as it continued its climb up the Netflix charts. Irish Wish, which I think was named that just because it's difficult for people to say, Irish Wish, which stars Lindsay Lohan, entered the chart at number 3 with 30.6 million hours watched and 19.53 million views. Then we have a drop down to number 4, Art of Love, which is a Turkish heist film, had 7.7 million views. Then the debut of The Signal, a German limited series about a strange signal from outer space. It comes in 5th place at 6.92 million views. Bandidos Season 1, a Mexican series about a group in search of a Mayan treasure, entered the chart at 6th place at 5.21 million views. Then we have Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1 continuing its run at 5.17 million views. Cat and Dog debuts in 8th place. It is a French talking animal movie at 4.07 million views. Then we have Alone debuting in 9th place about a woman being stalked far from civilization at 3.61 million views. And then at 3.60 million views, we have Code 8 Part 2, which had been on the Netflix charts for a couple of weeks already. Looking at the week of March 18th through March 24th, Irish Wish, that is such a hard name to say, was number 1 for the week at 25.53 million views. Damsel slipped to 2nd place at 19.48 million views. The Gentleman Season 1's in 3rd place at 11.67 million views. And then Three Body Problem, the much hyped series from Benioff and Weiss, their follow-up to Game of Thrones, debuted in 4th place. Remember, these shows debut often at the end of the week, so it's not really a full week of viewership. At 11 million views, 81.7 million hours watched. Cat and Dog moves up to 5th place at 6.69 million views. Then Art of Love in 6th place. Homicide New York debuted in 7th place. Homicide New York is a true crime docuseries from Dick Wolf, the creator of Law and Order. So I guess kind of like Law, just like a real life law. 6.58 million views. Then we have Physical 100 Season 2, one of my favorite South Korean reality shows, although to be fair, it's the only South Korean reality show that I've watched. 6.15 million views. Fighter comes in 9th place. That's basically the Indian Top Gun. It's a fighter jet movie. And then in 10th place is the Mark Wahlberg film Shooter, because it wouldn't be a Netflix chart if there wasn't a random movie from several years ago. 5.62 million views in 10th place. Moving on to the week of March 25th to March 31st, Three Body Problem takes over the number 1 spot with its first full week of viewership data at 15.62 million views. Testament, the story of Moses, which is a 3-episode series about the life of Moses, similar to the Cleopatra series that Netflix did, but not a disaster, at 13.46 million views. In 3rd place is Heart of the Hunter, a South African action spy thriller, at just over 11 million views. In 4th place, place was The Wages of Fear, which was a French remake of the French film that inspired other remakes like William Friedkin's Sorcerer. 10.96 million views in 4th place. Irish Wish is in 5th place at 10.47 million views. Then we have Damsel in 6th place. No Pressure in 7th place, a Polish rom-com set on a farm at 9.51 million views. The Gentleman Season 1 comes in 8th. Fighter stays in 9th place. And the Ben Affleck film The Accountant, which I believe the sequel is filming now, comes in 10th place at 6.19 million views. Moving into the month of April, April 1st through the 7th, The Wages of Fear takes the number 1 spot at 18.35 million views. In 2nd place with the debut of The Tearsmith, an Italian movie about 2 adopted siblings who feel the urge to share a forbidden love. 16.17 million views. Kind of reminds me of that fake movie on Arrested Development that George Michael liked about him and Maybe. That's a whole other thing. In 3rd place is Heart of the Hunter at 10.94 million views. Then No Pressure comes in 4th place. The Little Things, which debuted on Max, but really, as with so many other things, I think got an even wider audience when it was licensed to Netflix, comes in 5th place at 8.72 million views. Three Body Problem slips down to 6th place. The Maze Runner debuts in 7th place at 6.74 million views. The director of The Maze Runner has a movie in theaters right now, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which we will talk about on Charts with Dan tomorrow. In 8th place is Parasite the Grey, a South Korean series about killer parasites conquering the earth. It brought in 6.3 million views, and I'm pretty sure they spelled the Parasite with a Y so that people wouldn't think that this was a sequel to the South Korean movie Parasite, of course, the Oscar-winning film by Bong Joon-ho. In 9th place is M. Night Shyamalan's Glass, which debuted with 6.23 million views. And in 10th place, The Beautiful Game, a soccer/football drama, depending on where you are in the world, about a team at the Homeless World Cup, a street soccer tournament in Italy. 5.9 million views, good enough for 10th. Moving on to the week of April 8th through the 14th, at number 1 was the Netflix original film What Jennifer Did, a true crime documentary about a family mystery. Netflix loves their true crime. 18.35 million views. The Tearsmith stays in 2nd place. In 3rd place was the debut of Woody Woodpecker Goes to Camp, a live-action adventure about Woody Woodpecker, going to camp. It's all right there in the title. The camp's run by Mary Louise Parker. 10.94 million views, good enough for 3rd place. Parasite the Grey moves up to 4th place at just over 10 million views. Then we have Scoop in 5th place at 8.72 million views. Scoop was about landing the interview with Prince Andrew regarding his affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein. In 6th place is Stolen, a Swedish revenge film. In 7th place, Love Divided, a Spanish film about 2 people who meet through a hole in the wall, but not like in the gas station way. 6.74 million views. The Wages of Fear drops down to 8th place. Glass moves down to 9th place. And Megan Levy, another random movie from a while ago, enters the chart at number 10 with 5.9 million views. Looking now at April 15th through the 21st, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 2 debuted at number 1 with 21.46 million views. Woody Woodpecker Goes to Camp moves up to number 2 at 18.78 million views, followed by What Jennifer Did. And then debuting in 4th place is Baby Reindeer. Something notable here is that Baby Reindeer did not debut on Netflix this week, the 15th to the 21st. It debuted the week previous, but it didn't hit the charts until the word of mouth began to build. So you see it here entering the chart at number 4 at 13.31 million views, and it does the inverse of what we usually see with Netflix shows. We'll see this in the next couple of charts. Love Divided is in 5th place, followed by Stolen in 6th place. In 7th place is Anna, a 2019 Luc Besson movie about an undercover KGB model in Paris. The Tearsmith is in 8th place. Rebel Moon Part 1 re-enters the chart in 9th place. I guess people just wanted that whole epic all at once, 5.52 million views. And then in 10th place is Anthracite, Secrets of the Sect, a French drama about a secluded woodlands cult. Now looking at the week of April 22nd through the 28th, and Baby Reindeer moves up to 1st place in its 3rd week of availability on Netflix at 22 million views. Rebel Moon Part 2 moves down 1 slot to number 2 at 18.83 million views. Then we have Anyone But You, a big holiday hit comedy. Sony licenses their movies out to Netflix. It enters at number 3 at 10.56 million views, followed by Woody Woodpecker Goes to Camp in 4th place, Rebel Moon Part 1 in 5th place, The Assunta Case in 6th place, place, a Spanish drama about a kidnapped girl whose case turns out to be more complicated than it first seems. In 7th place is City Hunter, a live-action adaptation of the popular Japanese manga and anime. What Jennifer Did is in 8th place. Hack Your Health, Secrets of Your Gut, which is a documentary about how what we eat affects our health. It's the first time I'm hearing about this. 4.43 million views. And in 10th place is Queen of Tears at 4.12 million views. This is a South Korean series that racks up a lot of watch time, but rarely makes this list due to the length of the overall series. Moving on now to the last chart that we have data for. This is the week of April 29th through May 5th, and you'll see that Baby Reindeer maintains the #1 spot with another 18.56 million views. Of course, the news has really swirled around Baby Reindeer in a very controversial way around the true story of it all. The actual person that it's about, not Richard Gadd, but the other person, Martha, has come out and said that she's going to sue. So the discussion is still swirling around this show. #1, and we'll see in a couple days if it stays at #1. Honeymoonish comes in 2nd place. It's a film from Kuwait about a newlywed couple who are still learning about each other while still on their honeymoon. The Asunta Case is in 3rd place. In 4th place is Jerry Seinfeld's Unfrosted, a movie I didn't really care that much for, but it made the top 5, just over 7 million views. Anyone But You comes in 5th place. City Hunter comes in 6th. In 7th place is A Man in Full, David E. Kelly's drama about a real estate mogul played by Jeff Daniels. Rebel Moon Part 2 moves down to 8th place with 5.97 million views. Woody Woodpecker Goes to Camp goes down to 9th. And Lapata Ladies comes in 10th place. It's an Indian film about a man who gets his wife home and realizes she's not his wife. 5.61 million views. When you take all of this data now and look at the top 10 most watched programs of the year on Netflix, this is all watch time since January 1st. Damsel is now the most watched Netflix program worldwide of 2024 at 123.4 million views, the only movie or show so far that has surpassed 100 million views. Lift moves down to #2 from the last time we looked at this chart at 98.93 million views. In 3rd place is Fool Me Once at 98.16 million views, followed by Society of the Snow at 96.96 million. Then we have The Gentleman Season 1 added to this list at #5 at 67.83 million. Griselda moves down 1 spot to #6. Avatar moves down 1 spot to #7. Avatar The Last Airbender Season 1, it got that pickup for another 2 seasons, but it is not one of the most watched shows of the year. I doubt it will end the year in the top 10. 61.05 million total views. Coming up quick on it is Baby Reindeer. Baby Reindeer so far has racked up 56.52 million views with no sign of stopping. Irish Wish is at #9 at 55.52 million views, a new addition to the chart. And Three Body Problem is one of the 10 most watched Netflix programs of the year so far at 46.69 million views. Lots of shows and movies dropped off the list from the last time we looked at this chart a couple months ago. Money Heist Berlin Season 1, Despicable Me 3, Badland Hunters, Mea Culpa, and American Nightmare Season 1. Also, some changes to the top 10 most viewed Netflix series since they started releasing data back in 2021. Fool Me Once enters the list at #10. It's now the 10th most watched series in Netflix history with 98.16 million views. So there you go with that. Dropping off the chart is The Night Agent Season 1, which previously held that #10 slot. So that's the data that we have for Netflix. Let's shift now to the data that we have for Nielsen. Now, unlike Netflix, this is US data only, not worldwide data, and it's even more delayed than Netflix stuff because it takes about a month for these numbers to come in. So these numbers start all the way back in February, and let's start with the most watched movies across the various different streaming services. We're going back to the week of February 19th through the 25th, which saw the debut of Mea Culpa, the latest film from Tyler Perry, at #1 with 11.5 million hours watched. Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, maybe the biggest audience this movie's ever had in the US, 9.966 million hours watched in 2nd place. And then 2024's The Abyss in 3rd place at 8.25 million. Then we have Oppenheimer. This was during the whole Oscar season, so it comes in 4th place at 8.116 million hours watched, followed by 2021's Dune. This was the lead up to Dune Part 2. In 5th place, Moana, a chart staple, is in 6th place, followed by the Super Mario Brothers movie. Eli Roth's Thanksgiving debuts in 8th place with 5.8 million hours watched, followed by Players in 9th place, and then Encanto, another staple on the chart, in 10th place at 3.68 million hours viewed. Moving on to the week of February 26th through March 3rd, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom debuts at the top of the charts due to its debut on Max, 11.4 million hours watched. Mea Culpa moves down to number 2. Dune is in 3rd place. Code 8 Part 2 on Netflix debuts in 4th place at 7.3 million hours watched, followed by Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken in 5th place, Moana in 6th place, the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 7th place, Adam Sandler's Spaceman is in 8th place at 5 million hours watched, followed by Encanto at number 9, and then in 10th place is Code 8, the predecessor to Code 8 Part 2. That's how numbers work. 3.566 million hours watched, good enough for 10th place. Now looking at March 3rd through the 10th, this is the week that Damsel debuted to 20.15 million hours watched in the US, according to Nielsen, easily number 1. And second place is Amazon's Ricky Stenicki at 8.33 million hours watched, followed by Wonka's debut on Max at just over 8 million hours watched. In third, Dune stays in the top 5 at number 4, followed by Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom at number 5, the Super Mario Bros. Movie at number 6, Spaceman at number 7, Poor Things, which made its debut on Hulu in 8th place at 5.3 million hours watched, Moana at number 9, and Turbo on Netflix at number 10 with 4.2 million hours watched. For the week of March 11th through the 17th, Damsel remained number 1 at the top of the charts with 25.7 million hours. In second place was Taylor Swift The Eras Tour on Disney+, 11.28 million hours watched. That's a decent debut, but I think Disney probably hoped that it was going to bring in more viewership. I can only imagine the amount of money that they paid to make that a Disney Plus exclusive. It has not been a blockbuster streaming hit like you might have imagined it would be. In third place, oh, here it is again, Irish Wish on Netflix at 9.71 million hours watched, followed by Wonka in 4th place, Poor Things in 5th place, Ricky Stenicki in 6th place, the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 7th, Moana in 8th, Oppenheimer returning to the chart in 9th place, and Dune rounding out the top 10. Looking now at March 18th through the 24th, Amazon's Roadhouse 2024 starring Jake Gyllenhaal. This preceded Fallout, but they also had a big hit on the movie side, 22 million hours watched in its first week of availability, followed by Damsel in second place at 9.35 million hours watched, Irish Wish in third place, the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 4th place, Wonka in 5th place, Trolls Band Together on Peacock debuting in 6th place with 5.16 million hours watched, Taylor Swift The Eras Tour in 7th place, Moana in 8th, Ricky Stenicki in 9th, and then the Netflix original Shirley at 3.75 million hours watched in 10th. That's a great debut number for Roadhouse. We're going to look at streaming movie debuts for 2024 so far in just a couple minutes. This was for the week of March 25th through the 31st, 2024. Roadhouse remains number 1 at 13.5 million hours watched. The Accountant debuts in second place at 11.3 million, followed by Mending the Line on Netflix in third place. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is in 4th. On the Line on Netflix is in 5th. Moana is at 6th. Wonka is at 7th. The Wages of Fear debuts in 8th place with 4.1 million hours watched. Damsel is in 9th, and Taylor Swift The Eras Tour is in 10th. At 3.9 million hours watched. Looking now at April 1st through the 7th, 2024, we have Wish debuting at number 1, and a pretty good debut, 16.966 million hours watched, just shy of 17 million hours watched, good enough to take that number 1 spot. It was not a theatrical hit, but it put up a decent week 1 number for Disney+. The Little Things comes in second place at 13.6 million hours watched. Roadhouse drops down to third place. Glass debuts in 4th, followed by Baby Driver in 5th. Mortal Engines in 6th. Moana in 7th. Space Jam: A New Legacy, another Warner/Max licensee to Netflix, opens up at number 8 with 5.1 million hours watched, followed by the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 9th and The Wages of Fear in 10th. This is the last week of data that we have for Nielsen as far as movies go, April 8th through the 14th. Wish maintains its number 1 spot at 10.7 million hours watched, followed by What Jennifer Did at 10.3 million hours watched, Megan Levy in 3rd, The Bricklayer in 4th, Glass in 5th place, Hotel Transylvania 2 debuting on the charts at number 6, Woody Woodpecker Goes to Camp debuting at number 7. Then we have The Little Things in 8th place, Moana in 9th place, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie rounding out the chart in 10th place. And let's look at the top 5 movie weekends by hours watched for streaming movies this year. The second week of Damsel actually had the most hours streamed for any US movie according to Nielsen this year so far, with 25.7 million hours watched. Then we have Roadhouse on Amazon. Its debut week brought in 22 million hours watched. Then we have the first week of Damsel, which brought in 20.15 million. Lift on Netflix debuted to 17.35 million. And then we have Wish on Disney Plus with the fifth best performance as far as movie weekends this year at 16.96 million hours watched. These are all solid numbers for 2024, but they do not crack the top 10 as far as overall weekly performances for streaming movies. The second week of Glass Onion had the best week on record for any streaming movie since 2020 when Nielsen began reporting numbers at 48.1 million hours watched. Then we have the debut week of Hocus Pocus 2 in second place at 45.4 million hours watched. Black Panther Wakanda Forever's debut week on Disney Plus brought in the third best week that we've seen so far in the streaming era at 37.8 million hours. Then we have Wonder Woman 1984 back in December 2020, one of the big day and date movies for Max, and really before theaters were even open. It brought in 37.5 million hours. Glass Onion week 1 is the fifth place. So Glass Onion has both the first and the fifth best weekly performance for a movie according to Nielsen. 37 million hours is good enough for fifth place. Encanto's debut week is in sixth place at 36.6 million, followed by the debut of Don't Look Up in seventh place. The second week of Leave the World Behind at 32.5 million. Then the debut of Avatar The Way of Water in ninth place at 32.3 million. And the debut week of Leave the World Behind in 10th place at just over 32 million. So Leave the World Behind and Glass Onion, both on Netflix, the only two movies to have two of the best streaming performances as far as millions of hours watched in 1 week so far. This is a chart that I will update as needed as we continue to aggregate data over the years. Returning back to 2024, these are the most watched streaming movies of the year through April 14th, according to Nielsen's data. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is number one. It's gotten almost 100 million hours watched. It's been an incredibly popular movie on streaming. It's streaming on Netflix, followed by another Netflix movie, Damsel, the second most watched streaming movie of the year at 59.18 million hours watched. Then we have Moana, which is one of the most streamed movies of all time, at number 3 at 47.38 million hours. Remember, this is just 2024 hours. 2024's Roadhouse from Amazon is the fourth most watched streaming movie of the year so far at 42.2 million hours watched. So they've had a big hit with their series Fallout. They've had a big hit with their movie Roadhouse. So it's been a good 2024 for Amazon. Lift moves down to number 5. Dune debuts on the list at number 6. The Equalizer 3 moves down to number 7. Wish is the 8th most watched streaming movie of the year so far, followed by Wonka and Society of the Snow, which moves down to number 10. Killers of the Flower Moon, The Hill, The Legend of Tarzan, Aquaman, Elemental, and Orion in the Dark were all on this list. The last time we checked in a couple months ago, they are now out of the top 10. Looking at the most watched streaming movies since data began reporting in 2020, we have a couple of changes here. Encanto is still easily number one at 488.9 million hours watched, followed by Moana at 350.3 million hours. But the Super Mario Bros. Movie is now the third most watched streaming movie since data has been reported at 213.5 million hours. Luca moves down to number 4, Home Alone moves down to number 5, and Turning Red moves down to number 6. Elemental stays at number 7. Sing 2 drops down to number 8, Elf moves down to number 9, and Glass Onion rounds out the top 10. So that does it for movies, according to Nielsen streaming data. Now let's look at the most watched shows, according to Nielsen. And we're going all the way back to the week of February 19th through the 25th. We already had the Netflix data for Avatar worldwide. This was what the debut week looked like here in the US. 42.6 million hours watched, according to Nielsen. It just barely won that first place slot, though, because Love is Blind was right behind it at 40.1 million hours watched. Then we had Bluey in third place. Warrior, which was licensed out to Netflix, debuts in fourth place at $15.8 million. It had previously been a Max original. Young Sheldon is in fifth place. Grey's Anatomy is in sixth place. True Detective is in seventh. NCIS is in eighth. Monk is in ninth. And Suits is in 10th place. When we look at the top 20 shows, so this isn't the 10 most watched, this is the 20 most watched shows, original and library. These were the top performance when you look at watch time per available episode. Take the total watch time, divide it by the number of episodes. Avatar: The Last Airbender had 5.33 million hours watched per episode, followed by The Tourist at 938,000 hours watched per episode. Masters of the Air was in third at 752,000 hours watched per episode. Then Griselda in fourth, Mr. and Mrs. Smith in fifth, House of the Ninjas in sixth, Warrior in seventh, One Day in eighth, Love is Blind in ninth, and True Detective coming in 10th place. Now looking at February 26th through March 3rd, Love is Blind did take that number one spot at 35.16 million, just beating out Avatar: The Last Airbender, which drops to second place at 32.25 million. Bluey comes in third place. Young Sheldon is in fourth place. Brooklyn Nine-Nine was licensed out to Netflix and comes in fifth place at 14.11 million. Then we have Grey's Anatomy in sixth, Warrior in seventh, Suits in eighth, NCIS in ninth, and Wrong Side of the Tracks making its debut at number 10 at 10.35 million. Looking at the watch time per available episode, Avatar: The Last Airbender remains at number one with just over 4 million hours watched per episode. Shogun, which has been another big streaming hit, early in its run, hits the chart at 2.85 million hours watched per episode. Then we have American Conspiracy in third place, The Tourist in fourth, Furies in fifth, Love is Blind in sixth, Wrong Side of the Tracks at seventh, Halo over on Paramount Plus at 425,000 hours watched per episode is in eighth place, Warrior is in ninth place, and One Day comes in 10th place. Looking at the week of March 4th through the 10th, Love is Blind remains at number one. The Gentleman debuts in second place at just over 20 million hours watched total. Bluey is in third place. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is in fourth. Avatar: The Last Airbender falls to fifth place. The Program, Cons, Cults, and Kidnappings debuts in sixth place at just over 15 million hours watched. Then we have NCIS in seventh. The Tourist in eighth place. The Tourist is a UK-Australian Jamie Dornan series that ran on Max for season one back in 2022, but was picked up by Netflix for season 2. So yet another show that was on Max, now on Netflix. 12.7 million hours watched. Grey's Anatomy is in ninth place, and Young Sheldon is in 10th. When you look at it by watch time per episode, The Program, Cons, Cults, and Kidnappings brings in over 5 million hours watched per episode, followed by The Gentleman at 2.5 million hours watched per episode. Shogun comes in third at just over 2 million hours watched per episode, followed by Avatar: The Last Airbender at 1.98 million hours, and The Signal at 1.4 million. American Conspiracy is in sixth, Furies is in seventh, The Tourist is in eighth, Love is Blind is in ninth, and the reality show The Traitors on Peacock comes in 10th place at just over 237,000 hours watched per episode. This is the week of March 11th to the 17th. The Gentleman is at number one at 30.9 million. Love is Blind is at number two at 23.9 million. Bluey stays there at number three. This is just a fixture. It is the new Coco Melon. Grey's Anatomy is in fourth place. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is in fifth place. NCIS is in sixth. Turning Point, The Bomb and the Cold War makes its debut at number 7 with 10.35 million hours watched. Young Sheldon is at number 8. The Big Bang Theory returns to the chart at number 9. And Suits, which has only fallen off the charts a handful of times since its breakout last summer, re-enters the chart at number 10. Looking at the watch time per available episode, The Gentleman's at number 1 at 3.87 million hours watched per episode, followed by The Program, Cons, Cults, and Kidnappings at 1.98 million hours watched. Shogun is in third place at 1.7 million, so it may not be hitting the overall top 10 yet, but it is doing well per available episode. The fact that it's a weekly show means that watch time tends to aggregate over time. The Signal is in fourth place, Turning Point is in fifth place, Apples Never Fall is in sixth place, Avatar: The Last Airbender is in seventh, Masters of the Air is in eighth, Coco Melon, I was just talking about Coco Melon, is in ninth place, and Love is Blind is in 10th place. For the week of March 18th through the 24th, 3 Body Problem debuts at number 1 at 22.8 million. It just beat out the debut of the buzzy documentary Quiet on Set, which detailed allegations of horrible things that happened at Nickelodeon. Bluey stays there in third place. Homicide New York debuts on the chart at number 4 at 17.3 million hours. The Gentleman's in 5th. Grey's Anatomy is in 6th. NCIS is in 7th. Brooklyn Nine-Nine's in 8th. The Big Bang Theory is in 9th. And Love is Blind is in 10th place. When we look at it by watch time per episode, Quiet on Set is easily the winner at 5.2 million hours watched per episode, followed by Homicide New York at 3.46 million hours watched per episode. 3 Body Problem comes in at 2.86 million hours, followed by The Gentleman at just over 2 million. Shogun stays in the top 5 at 1.41 million hours watched per episode. The episode numbers are a little weird. It's not my calculations, it's Nielsen's. I don't know if the reporting is exactly right, but I'm going with their numbers. Apples Never Falls in 6th place. place. Physical 100 Underground, which is also Physical 100 Season 2, is in 7th place. Avatar: The Last Airbender is in 8th. Turning Point is in 9th. And Halo, with the full company of episodes, is in 10th place. For the week of March 25th through the 31st, Three Body Problems at number 1 at 29.7 million hours watched. Hulu apparently adjusted their reporting metrics, or Nielsen adjusted their measurement metrics, but they're able to measure some shows more than they were able to before, and that's why we see The Resident enter the chart in 2nd place. It's a 6-season medical drama that ran on Fox from 2018 to 2023. Frankly, I've never heard of it, but it was the 2nd most popular streaming show for that week with 24.6 million hours watched. Testament, the story of Moses, comes in 3rd place at 16.68 million hours watched. Then we have Bluey at number 4, NCIS at number 5. Family Guy, another show that's apparently had its measurements enhanced, is now at number 6 with 13.95 million hours watched. Grey's Anatomy is in 7th, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is in 8th, Homicide New York is in 9th, and Law & Order SVU, which has also benefited from these new metrics, comes in at number 10. Looking at watch time per episode, Testament, the story of Moses, is an easy number 1 at 5.56 million hours watched per episode, followed by Three Body Problem at 3.72 million hours watched. Homicide New York's in 3rd at 2.27 million hours watched, followed by The Gentleman in 4th place at 1.33 million. Shogun staying in the top 5 at 1.17 million hours watched per episode, followed by Physical 100 Underground at number 6, Buying Beverly Hills at number 7, Is It Cake, which still sounds like a RoboCop show to me, at 360,000 hours watched per episode, is at number 8, The Resident is at number 9, and Gabby's Dollhouse is at number 10. For the week of April 1st through the 7th, The Resident takes over the number 1 spot at 19.6 million hours watched, and then another medical show, Grey's Anatomy, is in 2nd place at 19.1 million hours. Bluey is, of course, in 3rd place because it seems like that's where it always is. Three Body Problem is in 4th. Family Guy cracks the top 5. NCIS is in 6th. Vikings, which is licensed to Netflix, debuts in 7th place. Files of the Unexplained on Netflix debuts in 8th. Is It Cake hits the overall top 10 at number 9, and then Bob's Burgers, another show that apparently has had its metrics boosted by Hulu, is at number 10 with just over 11 million hours watched total. Looking at watch time per episode, Three Body Problems at number 1 with 1.95 million hours watched per episode. Testament, the story of Moses, is in 2nd place, just behind at 1.87 million, and Files of the Unexplained is in a close 3rd at 1.43 million. Netflix's Ripley didn't make much of a ripple in the overall ratings, but it's number 1 here at 1.06 million hours watched per episode. Shogun remains in the top 5 barely, 1.033 million hours watched per episode to The Gentleman's 1.031 million hours watched per episode. Parasite the Grey is in 7th, The Magic Prank Show is in 8th, Physical 100 Underground is in 9th, and Is It Cake is in 10th. And then finally, the last week that we have data for from Nielsen is April 8th through the 14th. We just talked about this number. Fallout debuts at number 1, more than doubling the number 2 show, 48.4 million hours watched total. We will continue to track these numbers in the next few weeks, and I'll probably give you a big aggregate update the next time we do a streaming charts episode. Bluey is in 2nd place instead of 3rd. Grey's Anatomy is in 3rd. Vikings is in 4th. The Resident is in 5th. Unlocked, a jail experiment, is in 6th place. That show actually happened right here in Arkansas. It's been a big controversy because I guess the head of the jail didn't get the right permissions and the county judge is really upset. Anyway, 14.8 million hours watched. NCIS is in 7th. Family Guy is in 8th. Bob's Burgers is in 9th. And Criminal Minds rounds out the top 10. Looking at watch time per episode, Fallout is at number 1 with a great 6.05 million hours watched per episode, and that's the full complement of episodes. Unlocked, a jail experiment, is in 2nd place at 1.85 million hours watched per episode. Three Body Problem is in 3rd. Ripley is in 4th. Parasite the Grey is in 5th. Files of the Unexplained is in 6th. Shogun, through 8 episodes, is in 7th at 787,500 hours watched per episode. The Gentleman is in 8th. Is It Cake is in 9th. And Vikings is in 10th place. Looking at 2024 in total, these are the most watched library streaming series of the year, so not originally made for streaming. Bluey is number 1 at 296 million total hours watched. Grey's Anatomy moves up to number 2 at 232.1 million hours watched. Young Sheldon moves down to number 3 at 207.5 million hours. Then we have NCIS in 4th, The Big Bang Theory in 5th, Suits in 6th place. Brooklyn Nine-Nine enters the chart at 7th place at 78.3 million hours watched. Criminal Minds is in 8th. The Resident enters the chart at 59.8 million hours watched. True Detective remains at number 10. This Is Us and Loudermilk were 2 shows that were on this chart last time but have now dropped off. As far as the most watched original streaming series of the year so far, this is through April 14th, which is the last week that we have data for. Love is Blind is now the #1 most watched streaming series originally of the year, or at least as of April 14th, at 155.5 million hours watched. Fool Me Once moves down to #2. Avatar: The Last Airbender, the third most watched original streaming series of the year, at 105.1 million. The Gentleman in 4th place at 90.9 million. Reacher drops down to 5th place. Griselda drops down to 6th. Three Body Problem enters the chart at #7 at 77.2 million hours watched. Percy Jackson and the Olympians moves down to #8. Shogun right now is at #9 at 49.3 million hours watched. That's for all of the viewership data that we have, but Fallout through just 1 week, already the 10th most watched original streaming series of the year at 48.4 million hours watched. And again, we will watch it climb up this chart in the weeks ahead. We had a big change on this chart. This is the most watched library streaming series since Nielsen reporting began in 2020. NCIS has held this spot for the entire time that we've done this chart, but Grey's Anatomy has now overtaken NCIS, and look at the margin, by about 2 million hours out of 2 billion total watch hours. This was a slow motion chase. I've been watching it for several weeks now. Grey's Anatomy's #1 today. NCIS might jump up ahead here and there for a week or two until Grey's Anatomy is able to widen that gap. But Grey's Anatomy was able to take down the long reigning champion of library streaming series, which was NCIS. CoComelon is there at #3 at 1.8 billion hours watched. Bluey has moved up to #4 though. It's at 1.3 billion. Criminal Minds moves down to #5. Suits is in 6th place. The Big Bang Theory is in 7th. Supernatural is in 8th. Gilmore Girls is in 9th place. And Heartland is in 10th place. And then a couple changes as far as the most watched original streaming series since data reporting began back in 2020. Ozark remains #1 until a new season of Stranger Things comes out, because it's just so close to overtaking Ozark. The Crown is in 3rd place. Virgin River's in 4th. Love is Blind moves up to the 5th most watched original streaming series of the past few years. Manifest, Cobra Kai, Wednesday, and The Great British Baking Show all move down to #9. Bridgerton is at #10. However, we got a new season on the way, so look for Bridgerton to start jumping up this chart as soon as that viewership data starts coming in. And that does it for this edition of Streaming Charts with Dan. It's always a big info dump and a big download of data, but I think it's good to do it this way because it helps us look at the trends. We might get lost in the numbers from week to week. So what I'm going to be watching, obviously Fallout in the next few weeks as the Nielsen data comes in. Bridgerton's premiering soon. That usually brings in big numbers for Netflix, so I'll be watching that on the Netflix side, as well as the original movies and original shows that they're debuting. You never really quite know what's going to pop up on these charts, what's not going to pop up on these charts. The last couple weeks of Shogun, we haven't gotten the data for. We'll see how that fares on this chart. So much fun stuff, and I love to put these numbers together because I'm a nerd, and if you're watching this long, you're probably a nerd too. So thank you for nerding out with me on this streaming data, and be sure to stay tuned right here tomorrow for Charts with Dan, which is doing a summer move to Mondays. We're going to see how it works with the estimates, and if I like doing the show a little bit earlier, maybe we can grow the audience a little bit. And then, of course, movie news, reviews, box office, all the stuff that we do here on the channel. You can hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to make sure you're notified, because you don't always show up in the subscription feeds. I'm finding that out. Anything that you can do, really, to make sure that I'm putting out videos, because I love making them for you, and I appreciate that you watch them. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.